Hey guys, this is Ernesto. Welcome back to yet another video. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm having a wonderful day. So I just came back from St. Martin and I figured I could give you guys 5 tips on how to improve your travel photography, because I do a fair amount of traveling every year and I figured that you guys could get some benefit out of my experience. So stay tuned and we're gonna get straight into it. So my family and I take a minimum of 1 to 2 vacations every year, and throughout the year we take mini weekend getaways. When we go on these vacation getaways, my primary goal is to document the experience. So today I'm going to tell you guys how I prepare for that. Decide if this trip is a business trip / pleasure. Generally, I try to mix business and pleasure with my getaway, but you first need to decide if this is going to be business, pleasure, or both. And I know what you're going to say. You're going to say, well, Ernesto, this is a family vacation, therefore it's pleasure. And I would agree with you 100%. However, I tend to mix business with pleasure, and what I mean by business is basically I try to book a photo shoot at the destination that I'm going to. I try to take full advantage of it. And if I know that I'm going to be booking a photo shoot, it's good to know that information ahead of time because it helps to drive other decisions that I need to make. In addition, it would ensure that I carve out a few hours or a day dedicated to that particular photo shoot. That allows my family to know that either they need to exclude me from their particular plans for a particular day, or they need to plan around that one day that I need to do the photo shoot. Gear. Deciding what to take with you can either make or break your photography experience. Now, depending on if this trip is purely pleasure, what I would recommend that you bring with you is one camera body, preferably a small camera, such as a mirrorless camera. All the major manufacturers carry them now, such as Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, etc. Now, I recommend a smaller camera body or a lighter camera because when you're walking around, and you will be doing a lot of walking around on your vacation, these cameras will tend to become like a brick on your shoulders, or if you don't have a camera strap, it's just going to become like a brick in your hands and it's going to become heavier. So having a lighter, smaller camera body will help you, enjoy your experience a little bit more. Now, from a lens perspective, again, if this is just purely pleasure, my recommendation is to carry just one lens. I know as a photographer, you're probably gonna be struggling with that decision. I know I certainly do or did struggle with that decision, because how do you decide which lens to take? When I traveled in the past, I took my entire camera bag with me. And when I basically look back at that experience, I only ended up using one lens. Now, the question you may have already is basically, what lens do you use, or what's the single lens that you carry on your vacation? So the single lens that I carry on my vacation is my 24-70 lens. I highly recommend that lens because it will give you a variety of focal lengths. Not only give you a wide shot to incorporate some of the environment, but it also will give you a nice focal length for portraits. Another lens that I would recommend, now this is a recent lens to my camera bag, and that is the 35mm focal length. This is a focal length that I'm falling in love with every single day. This focal length is great for environmental portraits and to some extent some close-up portraits. You just have to be a little bit careful with it. But it's an awesome lens and it is great for, taking a wide variety of shots while you're on vacation. Now, if this trip is business / pleasure, meaning you're gonna be doing a photo shoot on this vacation, my recommendation is to carry two lenses, a minimum of two lenses. And that's the 24-70, because as the reasons I stated before, is great for environmental portraits and it's good for close-up portrait. You could take that lens primarily and basically kill two birds with one stone, meaning you could do it for the pleasure and you could do it for business, basically doing the photo shoot with that lens as well. But you could also use another lens, which is the 85mm lens. That's a great lens. It's small, it's a little bit heavy, at least for the Canon version, it's a little bit heavy, but it's a great lens, it's compact, and you could use that lens for your business photography, which is basically doing the photo shoot, because it will help you get some great shots for your photo shoots. In the past, I took like my 70-200 lens, which is by far my most favorite lens and my favorite focal length that I love to use. But it's a pretty long lens and it's a pretty heavy lens to take on your vacation. So if you want to, you can, but I don't recommend taking like a 70-200. Again, I took it in the past for my vacation, and would I take it again? Maybe, but I would definitely recommend either the 24-70 or the 85mm to take for business/pleasure. Now, notice I didn't mention anything about light or light modifiers, because if this trip is completely personal, these types of things are not required in my opinion. It will just be more things to add to your camera bag that will bog you down and, you know, restrict your movement. So I would definitely not recommend you bring any type of light or any type of light modifiers if this is a purely personal vacation. Depending on your style of photography, meaning if your type of photography consists of primarily just using all artificial light, and if this trip is going to be business/pleasure, then obviously that's going to dictate if you bring any type of light or modifiers. For me, when I travel, what I try to do is travel as compact as possible. That means basically traveling with speedlights or like units like the Godox 80-200. Those types of units is small, is compact. And as far as the modifiers that I travel with, I try to travel with a small modifier that I could basically put everything into one carrying case. So basically for the modifier and for the lights, put everything into one case. I could just put it across my shoulder and carry that and that alone, even the light stand. Now, regardless of whether this trip is business or personal, it's incredibly important to me that I have a game plan prior to this shoot, because I as a photographer need to understand what type of story is it that I want to capture for this journey. Understanding what story I want to tell will dictate to me my shot list, and it will tell me where and how I need to capture the type of images that I need to capture to tell the story that I want to tell. For example, before I go on my vacation, I sit down and I say, you know, what is it that I want to tell? Do I want to tell the story basically of our journey from before we leave for vacation, meaning, you know, our journey out the house, our journey in the car to the airport, at the airport, leaving the airport, you know, getting to the hotel, you know, getting ready for our first outing, stuff like that. Do I want to document all those little steps, or do I want to document something different? Meaning, do I want to document my journey when we get to the destination as opposed to before? So all of these things I'm playing out in my head. The reason I'm playing this stuff out in my head is because it would allow me to be in the position to know when I need to take out my camera. So I could take my camera out if I'm gonna document my journey from the point when we are leaving the house, getting in the car and all that good stuff. I will have my camera in hand. If I don't know what my story is, then I'll probably pack away my camera and I will miss out on important moments. So it's important for you to know what your story is gonna be prior to you leaving. The point is, I can be as creative as I want because I know what story I want to tell and I know how I want to tell it, and I could be as creative and as dynamic as I want with those images, and I could stage it as much as I want because I know what story I want to tell. So again, just not to beat a dead horse here, but just know what story you want to tell. So on my trip to St. Martin, my story was more cinematic. I wanted to tell a more cinematic story, which involved a lot more video than it did photography, which was kind of strange for me because I am not a videographer. I am a photographer. So it was more of an experiment for me than anything else. Which brings me to my final point about story, which is experiment, and it's more like a bonus tip. Vacations are a great opportunity for me to experiment with different techniques. Now, the reason for that is because I have very limited resources, and the fact that I have very limited resources, all I have is my eyes, my composition, and basically what I want to take advantage of and how I want to capture it. So I basically have full control over what is it that I want to say, how I want to present it. So this is my time to experiment. So for you, if this is your vacation, feel free to experiment, because at the end of the day, this would be your opportunity to create and make mistakes where you're not under any type of pressure, which is great for me because when I'm on vacation, I'm not under any pressure to create anything amazing. If it happens to happen, if I happen to create something amazing, great, wonderful. If it busts and I didn't get something the way I wanted to capture it, then okay, I tried something, it didn't work, no big deal. But it's a great opportunity to experiment. So I highly suggest you guys go out there and experiment on your vacation. It can't hurt. Now, this is by far my most important tip, and that is light. On these trips, if it is a trip that is purely personal and is not business, for the most part, I use natural light or ambient light to light my subject. So it's incredibly important that I find the right light. Typically, I say it really doesn't matter what type of light I shoot in. It could be hard light, soft light, specular light, etc. It really doesn't matter. As long as I have a light source, I can shoot. So I typically create my images in open shade or in the shade, or at sunrise or right before noon, or in the afternoon after 3 o'clock, or maybe at sunset or the blue hour, or even in the night. That's the time that I choose to create my images while I'm on vacation. If we're doing any activities that's not around that time, I try to reschedule it, or I don't shoot it at all. Creating a book is incredibly important, and here is why. Most of us, when we go on vacation, we share a handful of those images on social media, and the rest of it just sits on a hard drive somewhere. I know I'm guilty of that. So what this means, your loved ones only get to see a handful of the images. Now let's say you are the type of photographer who shares all your images on social media, which is great, but for some of those images could be incredibly personal and have no business of being on social media. In those cases, you may share those images privately via social media or via email, which kind of cheapens the experience. So what I tend to do is print out my images in books, which is incredibly important to me. And what's more important is that the story makes sense based upon the vision that I originally had in mind. Now, my goal is not to have award-winning images in the book, but it is important to me that I capture and display images that was true to the events that unfolded, but was captured in a flattering way with beautiful light. Lastly, printing books allows me to also make copies for my loved ones. So for example, I could share my experiences on this vacation with my mother, my wife's mother, and whoever else that we wish to share these memories with. by simply creating a duplicate copy of a book like this that we could send to our family members. I have tons of these books, right? And I still have more to make. But these books are incredibly, you can make these books. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit pricey, but this book here was made on Amazon. You could go on Amazon, I'm sorry, not Amazon, Adorama. You could go to Adorama and you can, by the way, not sponsored, but you could go to Adorama and basically make these books. This one I particularly enjoy. These are like my latest and greatest ones that I particularly enjoy. These are the lay flat images. Basically, when you open the book, you don't have to worry about the you know, the page basically folding back over. So I like this, and the images are incredibly vibrant. I love printing out these images. So if you guys don't print out your images from your vacation photos, your family photos, you're definitely missing out, because I put this on a tabletop, and when people come over, they could actually go through these images and, you know, relive the experiences that we had on our vacation. I still have vacation pictures to print out from my Dubai trip, the St. Martin trip that we just did. So, you know, print your images and you will definitely enjoy it and love it a lot more than you would when you put it up on, you know, the social media world, because it will be incredibly important and personal to you and your family members and your closest friends. So I hope these tips were helpful to you. If it was, please go ahead and give this video a big thumbs up. Put some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you guys print out your images or you create books for your vacations. If you don't, and this video basically inspires you to do something like that, you know, drop a comment and let me know. Share this video with your friends and family if you think it would be helpful to them. And guys, if you got this far in this video and you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Take care.